Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. Today, my guest is Carolyn Pistoni. Carolyn is a committed earthling, dedicated to saving the planet using her real estate license. What? Carolyn is the president and managing director at Clear Blue Commercial. She has held various senior positions in the entertainment, real estate, and in high-tech industries. These experiences have inspired her to work to build a supportive, innovative, and collaborative environment for clients, team members, and yes, even the planet to thrive. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be with you today.
Thank you. Well, first I want to also thank you for being an amazing speaker and sponsor on our last summit, Finding Revitalization After Trauma. And it was about, the physical health of our bodies. And I'm going to use your podcast episode to help promote people going back and watching the replays and to consider the VIP package, but also to show what a badass you are. And I want to support you in finding more speaking gigs.
Well, thank you. And it's really through you that I've started talking about trauma more, and really how it relates to business. I never expected to be a trauma speaker. I'm not a therapist, and I don't consider myself an expert in response to trauma, but through getting to know you and love you and be involved with you and your work, I've really started to see how, well, first of all, we all are only individuals. And a lot of times one of the things I've started to talk about is how there is no real difference between your work life and your real life, that it's all part of the same thing. And when we start to look at ourselves more holistically, it is really easy to see how our response to trauma informs every part of our lives. And in this most recent summit, we were talking about the physical effects of trauma and how that relates to things we carry later. I wrote a book recently not that recently. It was released last year. And it was called Open for Joy, A Journey of Healing and Business Success. And that's really where I first started to process how a lot of the skills and the worldview that I've developed as the result of being a trauma survivor have really been gifts in my professional life and also in my personal life, because it's all the same. But also I'm starting to see a lot of times when we look at our past trauma, we look at it as that's in the past. Right. But truly we carry it with us all the time. And I think I mentioned when we last spoke that it's like this giant U-Haul trailer full of generational trauma and personal trauma and financial trauma and sexual trauma and emotional trauma. And we just haul this darn U-Haul full of all this stuff through our lives. And it is very heavy, and we don't need to. It's possible to take the gifts from it and really use those gifts as a platform to launch us into the fullest of our being on this planet. And one of the things that I talked about when we did the summit was a major catastrophic illness that I had at 31 years old. And the illness that I have was called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And what I reflected on after that summit is what Guillain-Barré syndrome really is. It is an autoimmune response. And what happens is something is introduced into your body. And it could be exposure to a flu or anything. In my case, it was an exposure to something called Campylobacter, which is like salmonella. I got it from
This isn't sounding so good. I hadn't heard this part before.
yeah, because I hadn't really thought about it before. But it's like salmonella. I got it from undercooked chicken. It was about a week of diarrhea that had me sobbing and hoping for death. I know when you're growing up, there's lots of jokes about diarrhea and songs about diarrhea, blah, blah, blah. It was not fun. But anyway, that passed. And a couple of months later, so that's the thing that got me, that triggered this Guillain-Barré syndrome. But anyway, something bad is introduced into your body, and your body goes crazy making antibodies, and it overproduces these antibodies. And then the antibodies turn around and start attacking you, specifically attacking your nervous system. So it eats all of the myelin, which is the coating that coats all of your nerves. So it's like if there was a live, if there was a live wire with the rubber coating, that's myelin, is that rubber coating in your body. And I thought about it afterwards, and I was like, this is such a metaphor for what trauma really is. It's this thing. Yeah. Like, I guarantee you, I would not remember today that I had Campylobacter in 1992. I would not remember that because it was a non-incident. But because my body, my protective instincts, my hypervigilance, all of the things that we do to deal with our trauma, suddenly turns around and starts attacking you.
Yeah.
And for me, it seems obvious now that I'm saying it out loud, but for me, that was a huge aha moment where it was like, yes, this is a real metaphor for what it is. Because what I have found is because of other traumas in my life, and there, I've lived long enough now to where, there's more and more traumas because can't control what happens out there.
Right.
But in many ways, we re-traumatize ourselves.
That is true.
Because it feels so familiar. So we seek out relationships that are similarly abusive or manipulative. We sometimes gaslight ourselves and you and I recently were on a cruise together in Seattle, and I was talking with my roommate, and she said, you say these things, Carolyn, like they're true, but they're not. Because
Ooh.
I said something about, well, I'm probably going to lose this, or this is probably going to end, or, that part of my, that great part of my life is over now, or because I'm old, I'm not going to be able to do this or that, and she said, you say these things, but they're not true. And you've got to stop saying these kinds of things to yourself. And, I like to think I'm incredibly evolved. And
you are, my dear, but there's always room for more.
And look how wildly successful I am and all these things. But the truth is the manipulation and the gaslighting and all of the other, and the grooming, all of the stuff that happens to us, that we
They
are
create
traumatized
lives.
by,
Yes.
we perpetuate it in ourselves, and we treat the world. We teach the world that this is how to treat us, and this is who we are. And we treat ourselves this way. I know you and I have talked before, and I adopted 2 foster children who were incredibly traumatized, and they came to me fairly young. My daughter was 3.5, and my son had just turned 7 when they first came to live with us. And a lot of the horrific trauma that they had dealt with, and the neglect, and being in numerous foster homes. They were so young, and yet ours was the 7th home they had lived in. So all of this stuff, well, that trauma has a latency period during sort of elementary and junior high. And I really think that's an evolutionary tool, or an evolutionary good thing, so that even kids who have been severely traumatized and neglected at a very young age, can still learn how to function, and learn how to dress themselves, and learn how to read, and behave in school, and all of these other sorts of things, so that they can grow. And then it all just blows wide open as soon as puberty hits. And now that my children are older, my daughter's 26, and my son is 29, I am seeing evidence of them abusing and neglecting themselves, because that's so familiar to them, and that's who they think they are. Now they've overcome. It's amazing. They're miracles, both of them, and it's amazing that either one of them is functional at all, and they both are. They both have jobs and lives, and they're highly functional, and they both have the ability to give and receive love, which is also a miracle. But it's so hard as a mother to step back and go, this is their journey. I can't.
We want to save them.
Yeah. And I've saved them as much as I possibly could.
Right.
But it's hard to watch them perpetuate that in themselves.
Yes.
And I used to say to them when they were little, that all the worst stuff that could possibly happen to a person happened to them before they ever started kindergarten. And so now they don't have to be afraid of anything anymore, because they survived. They survived that, and they're still these awesome people. So the world belongs to them now. And I don't know how much that sunk in, but I don't know how much it sinks in with any of us.
It's hard to believe that we're truly safe if our nervous system completely feels dysregulated, right?
Yep.
It's just hard to believe. Yeah. Yeah. So
Well,
what's
and
next for you? What's next with your healing journey? Because we know that you can't save your kids because they're adults now, and you've already poured in love, money, time, attention, effort. You poured, a lot of times at your own expense. And so now that they've kind of launched as much as they can be, and I know you're still in the background with them. But what is next for you? What are you doing next for your healing journey?
Well, I think I'm realizing that a lot of my work in my company, Clear Blue Commercial, has been about healing the planet and bringing community together, and kind of being an example that of using business as a force for good. And I started my company with no money. and no credit on about 30 days notice, which is a whole long story unto itself. But I really felt strongly that I wanted to create something that was better and different and really of benefit, and to have that benefit be unlimited. And now that I've had that business for 11 years, we just celebrated 11 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We have a lot of data. We have a lot of case studies. We have videos. We have examples. What I really want to do now is talk about it and speak about it on a bigger stage with a bigger microphone, and begin to conduct workshops and write more books to have the most impact I can possibly have, because ultimately I want the world to be a better place because I'm here. And I'm just one, I'm just one abused little girl. And if I can use my one little life to have the impact that I've now had, imagine if I can inspire more and more people to do the same. And so that's really where I'm going and what I want to do next. And I have one little example I can give you of something that we did, and all the different ways that it helped. So we did these things called turf conversions. There's a drought here where I am in California that we go through. We've been going through drought, which leads to fire season, and those have been getting worse and worse. And so I started turf conversions at these properties that we managed. And that's where you take out the lawn and the sprinklers and you put in a drip system and you put in drought tolerant plantings. And I did this at a number of buildings over a year or two, and it was great. And we're saving water, and it looks great. And we were able to put in walking paths and benches, and really make it nice. And we were also able to do it affordably, so that ultimately it saved our clients money. So I was really excited. And I thought, I'm going to do this in every building we manage. And we finally got down to this last building that we managed that was owned by a big real estate investment trust out of the East Coast. And this building wasn't making much money. It wasn't in a town that anybody on the East Coast had heard of. It was, and it was just a line item on their spreadsheet. So I called my client and I said, listen, we want to do this turf conversion here. It's going to save water, and it's, here's what we're going to do, and here's some pictures of other ones. Can we do this? And he said, well, as long as you don't go over budget, fine, do what you want. And the first thing I learned from that is that I am a terrible judge of square footage, because this was a whole lot bigger than we had ever done before. It was 65,000 square feet of lawn. And when called the same landscaping company I'd been working with, their bid came back at $250,000. And I did the math, and that would pay for itself in water savings in 32 years. And I knew that was a non-starter for my client. And so I went back to the landscaping company and I said, look, your bid here is it's all labor and materials. What if I was able to get volunteer labor and I was able to get materials donated? Would you still come in and do the prep work? Would you just give me a bid to do the prep work and get us all set up? And they came back and said, yes, we'd like to be a part of that. And in addition, they donated a front loader tractor and an operator for the day, which really speeds things up if you're ever doing this, especially that much.
But thank you.
But so we
anyway,
so we went to the city and the local water agency and a local nonprofit that was involved in these types of projects. We got all of the mulch and cardboard and compost donated. We got the drip. It's hose basically, but we got all of those supplies donated. I went to the local high schools and the local colleges because all of them have a community service graduation requirement. So we had a soccer team, a wrestling team, and then the environmental sciences department at our local university. They all came out. We got 3 different bands. There was a massage school across the street. We got them to come over and bring their chairs so people could have massages. And we got granola bars and lunch donated, and yogurt. There's a dairy near us. We got yogurt donated. And it was supposed to take 6 weeks and cost $250,000. It took 6 hours. And we did, and it was just under $70,000, which was less than what the landscaping budget for that year was. And because my husband and I come out of the entertainment industry, we were there with a 3-camera shoot. We interviewed different people, and we had cameras up on the roof so you could see time lapse. You could see the lawn going away and the mulch coming back in.
That's cool.
It was really cool, really, and very fun. And then a couple of weeks later, I was doing my monthly report and putting in the invoices, and I got a call from the accounting department at my client saying, "Why are there massage therapists on the landscaping budget? And who is the Bad Apple String Band?" So I was able to explain to them what we did so that they got it. And then I sent them the video when they really got it. And they liked the video so much that they showed it at their annual shareholders meeting. And what that really did is it took something that was just a line item on somebody's spreadsheet into something that investors all over the country could feel really good about. Look at what we did. Look at what our money did. And it also, and I love that video and I watch it all the time. And a couple of years later, I was at a meeting with the city and this same nonprofit. And I kept looking across the table at this woman. I go, "We've worked together before. I know you." And she said, "I was a student and I was at that event. And it's what made me want to be program director for this nonprofit." And so that's my job now. And I was like, "You were in my video. I remember that's where I know you from. It's my video." And so the idea that, you can drop a pebble into the lake and the ripples can go so much farther than you ever expect them to.
Isn't that, oh my God, that's so amazing. Okay, so I get to talk for a minute, Carol.
Please.
I find it very awe-inspiring how you said a few minutes ago, I'm just abused little girl. And now you're like this kick-ass multi-million-dollar businesswoman, saving the planet, raised 2 children that were deeply hurt. I don't know what other word to use. There's lots of choices there, right? But we don't want them to have that identity. And you are a survivor of child abuse, abuse in your past relationship, sexual assault, and medical traumas. You've had all this stuff go on, yet you're this badass. Help us understand that piece. How'd you go from abuse victim to survivor to thriver and beyond? And 2 sentences or less, please.
I just want to be loved. Is that so wrong? I really think that from the pursuit of love has really made me want to do better and do more and be better. And part of what happens when we are abused children and gaslit is that we try to figure out how to get our needs met. And I think that really sort of led me to really wanting to make the world a better place. I want to make the world a safe and better place for me. That was the first part of it. But then I wanted to make the world a safe and better place for everybody. And I wanted to start showing people that this is possible within the constraints of daily living.
Right.
And so that's what I've done. The truth is, the only reason this whole turf conversion thing happened is because I thought this would be great. I want to do this. And then I just figured out a way to make it happen. And when I was in corporate life, I because of my ability to please people and because of my hypervigilance, I climbed very far and very fast in the corporate world. But I was really unmanageable because I was always running into my boss's office going, I have a great idea. We should do this. And was always met with, thank you for your input. Please go back to your desk and do your job. And oh, by the way,
that's why you needed to be an entrepreneur.
Exactly. And oh, by the way, you can't save the world, Carolyn. So basically just trying to discourage me. And I'm like, what do you mean I can't? Of course I can. And of course we all can. And I have a workshop coming up for entrepreneurs, and it's called Saving the World by Playing Big in Your Small Business.
And you're hosting this in San Francisco, right?
I'm hosting it in San Francisco. It's July 13th, which is a Sunday. It's from 10:30 to 12:30, so that you still have time to enjoy the beautiful Bay Area. And this is sort of the beginning. I'd like to speak to bigger and bigger businesses, because the small businesses have agility, have the ability to pivot and to move and to to make a decision and act on it. Bigger businesses are a little slower moving, but they can have much bigger impact. So my hope is I'm going to start with the small businesses, and then I'm going to start talking to the big businesses.
Are you going to record your event? Like, I know you're doing it live, but are you going to videotape it as well?
Probably not, because this is the first
not
one.
the right answer. Okay, so it's a practice run. Okay.
This is the beta test.
Okay.
So there will be more. There will be more,
now,
and hopefully we'll be able to
send your private. You could just send your private jet to pick me up, and then I could be present for the day.
Well, a private jet is not terribly environmentally conscious, so I would never have a private jet, but I'm sure we could figure something out.
A yacht that comes into Baltimore, I think that's closest.
Well,
yachts aren't environmentally friendly either, are they? All these rich people's toys are not environmentally friendly.
Not so much, really. Not so much. That's why they're so invested in space, because they're going to ruin the planet and then go get another one. But that's a whole other podcast.
Okay, so let's bring it back. Okay, so there's survivors who are listening today who are not where you're at today. They're stuck in something, maybe.
They're in it.
They're in it. So what would be just one sentence, because we got to end. And I know you got a lot to say about this too, but what would be just a simple hope to give them if they're feeling kind of stuck right now? Simple hope.
Well, first of all, the most important thing is that they're survivors. They're not victims. They are survivors. And the fact that they have already survived what was probably their very worst day or their very worst experience should fill them with hope. It certainly fills me with hope for them. And like I told my children, all the worst stuff that could possibly happen to somebody has happened to you and you have survived. So now live the life you want.
Amen. Thank you again for being a speaker, a sponsor, a friend, a fellow entrepreneur, badass woman that you are.
You bet. I am so excited that I'm going to see you later this week.
Yes. I will just explain to our listeners. Carolyn is coming into Washington, D.C. for work, and I happen to live 10 miles away. So we're going to go to the African American Museum, History Museum, and have lunch and enjoy each other. And I'm excited about that too. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.